Hi, I'm Tim with the Fiesta Movement, and this is Mission Control. This car has been at the center of our interactive display as we've traveled around the United States for the last year, and now you've got one. So let's get down to business and talk about how to get in, get it set up, make it work, and tear it down. First step, getting in. If you've got a key fob and the buttons don't work or the proximity-based sensors don't work, just go ahead and squeeze the two buttons near the keychain, and you'll find that the panel pops off. You have access to a key inside. You can use this in the driver's side door. And when you're in the vehicle, if you needed this key, chances are good your battery has died. So just take a look inside the bin stored in the back seat for your booster pack. That'll get you started. There are also jumper cables in there as well. Now let's get to unpacking the vehicle. First and foremost, take the bin from the back seat. I'm going to go ahead and just set that bin to the side. We're going to need everything in there in a little bit. Next, just lift underneath that Ford emblem. When the battery's charged up, that'll undo for you. We've got all of our computers stored in the back here. We've used t-shirts to keep them from scuffing, and we've got foam to keep them from smacking into each other and cracking. So we're going to want to go ahead and pull these out and set them aside, because we'll be using all of these soon too. We've got to empty out the trunk. So now you can see we've taken all four of the computers and the foam out of the trunk. The first step in setting up the vehicle is going to be to plug in the heavy gauge extension cord found in the bin. Take the female end of your extension cord and plug it into the outlet located just to the left of the exhaust. Now that that's plugged in and we've got power, go ahead and turn on the uninterruptible power supply, which is located in your trunk. Once that's on, we're ready to go. We can close the trunk. Make sure you've got that power, because it will be hard to get in here once we start setting up the car. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got inside this bin. First and foremost, we've got a smaller bin. You'll find a couple of tools: a screwdriver, a wrench, a hammer, a microfiber cloth, which is great for cleaning the computer screens, a backup software for the computers, and you'll also find these bolts and wing nuts. These will come in very handy for setting up. In the event that those go missing, you will be very happy to see those. And we've also got some zip ties, so you can use these to secure cables. There may be a few other odds and ends in your case, but those are the important components. Let's see what else we've got in the bin here. You've got a jump starting kit here, and you've also got a set of jumper cables and a tool with felt on it and a handle. This tool is used for disassembling the unit when we're done. Make sure you've got that in the kit. And a variety of keyboards neatly stacked with foam in between them so that they won't become damaged. Make sure you empty out the bin before you start extracting the keyboards, because if there's pressure, these keys might pop off. All right, now it's time to unpack the arms which hold the computers on the display car. They're stored in the back, and each of them is wrapped in its own blanket. I'll unwrap these, and we'll take a look at what each looks like and where they go on the vehicle. Now, the first arm here has a thumb screw on the back of it. We're going to go ahead and detach that. This arm goes onto the front quarter panel of the vehicle on either side of the hood. I'll go ahead and just line the plate up with the socket, and I'll take this thumb screw and just go ahead and fasten that. Want to make sure it's tight and snug, because the computers are pretty heavy. We don't want them to jiggle too much. The second arm we're going to pull out here has a pin through it. The second arm has a pin through it. That means it goes on the back panels. You can put it either on the driver's side or passenger side toward the rear. Just line the plate up with the socket, put that in, and then you'll want to just finagle the pole here. Make sure you can get that pin through both the pole and the connecting mount. And now this is ready to go. We can mount a computer on there. The third pole we're pulling out here is goes in the middle of the car. You'll see it's just plain lines. There are no additional brackets on this one. So it just goes right in the middle, and I'm going to go ahead and mount this just under the front door handle. Same principle applies here. I'm just lining this plate up, sliding it in. Once it's in place, I'm going to apply a little pressure away from the vehicle and turn the bolt with the rubber stop on it, extending it and creating some tension between the side of the vehicle and the mounting bar. The final type of mounting pole we've got looks like this. It's got a fin on the back, and each car does have one of these. This mounts on the rear of the vehicle, on the hatch. So let's take a look at how this goes on. Now we're ready to go ahead and mount the final bracket. We're going to go ahead and remove these wing nuts from the license plate. And once they're off, we're ready to go ahead and mount the bracket. We're going to slide the plate right into its socket. I like to shimmy it a little bit. It takes some force to get it flush. And then we'll adjust to make the holes and the bolts line up. Take the wing nuts, secure the bar to the hatch. And now it's time to go ahead and connect our power. All right, and then once it's in, you're going to turn it counterclockwise until it snaps in, and make sure that the little pin pushes up, keeps it secure, and now we've got power. You'll find outlets for power at the center rear of the vehicle, near each of the rear tires, under each of the doors, and at the front quarter panels. All right, now it's time to mount the computer. You probably recognize this mounting plate and bracket structure here. I'm going to go ahead and line the two up. Just drop it in. It'll stay secure. I'm going to connect the white power cable to the back. Now it's time to mount the keyboard tray. In the rear of the vehicle, we use the bent keyboard tray. It's got a slight angle to it. We're going to go ahead and just take these wing nuts off of the bolts. Go ahead and set that there. Drop our bolt in. And we'll set the mouse on the platform and run the other cable behind. Just plug it into any one of the USB ports at the back of the device. Last but not least important, use your microfiber cloth to get off all those fingerprints that have a tendency to stick to these. In order to turn it on, just hold that power button there and wait for a second or two. You'll see the screen light up white and you'll hear that famous Mac sound. First thing you want to do is just go ahead and click on this kiosk button, and it should automatically log you in. The computer will attempt to connect to your wireless network and load our home site. If it doesn't, move your cursor to the top right, and to the left of the clock, you'll see a speaker and a small symbol for wireless. Just click that one time, and the airport will scan and look for wireless networks in your area. Here we've got a wireless network. We're going to click on that. It will connect to the network, at which point you can try to bring through the website again by clicking in the top left under File and New Window. That'll just try to reload the page once you've connected to your wireless network. The Facebook button allows consumers to update their Facebook status and let their friends know they've seen the new Fiesta in person. The 2011 Ford Fiesta link will allow consumers to read about the car, price one, and check out all the options available. And the Fiesta Movement option, all the way on the left, allows users to check out the social media involved with the Fiesta movement. So this is one example of what mission control can be set up to look like. You can take these computers on the front panels and the back panels and move them to either side. If you've got a small room, you might want them all on one side, or you may want to use 3 computers if you don't feel like you've got room for 4. Set it up how you like it. We know you'll make the best judgment call. When the time comes to part ways with mission control, there are just a few things you should know about tearing down and packing up everything. When you're ready to shut down the computers, just move your cursor to the very top left of the screen, click on the Apple logo, and choose Shut Down. The computer will ask you in the center of the screen if you're willing to do that. Just say you are and click Shut Down. Should take just a second and the computer will be ready to unplug. Before you pack up, the first thing you should do while all the computers are mounted is remove these keyboard trays. So just go ahead and hold down the tray to the stand, remove these wing nuts, and make sure you replace the wing nuts and the bolts onto this tray before you pack it up. When you've got the cables disconnected from the computer, we're ready to load them into the bin. It's a good idea when it's time to pack up the keyboard trays to make sure you've got an empty bin. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the items that are in there out. The first tray I like to start with is the tray from the rear of the vehicle. It's got the angled back. Start with that. And it's got a nice little cove back there to keep your mice safe. Use a piece of foam and your next keyboard. Put the mouse in the back there. Your next piece of foam. And so on. Your next piece of foam. Now you can start loading back the other components. Your jumper cables, booster, your toolkit, your tool for removing the arms, and importantly, the extension cord from the back of the car. Go ahead and place that in. Replace your top. Now you're ready to load this in the back seat so it can go to the next dealer. All right, now we're ready to lift this computer out. Take the computer and put it aside. Then disconnect the power cable from the bottom of the car. When you're ready to disconnect power, place your finger on the silver pin, which actually has an arrow indicating to pull down and turn clockwise. And then you're ready to release. Take a look. There's a little arrow on the pin. Pull down and then release. Next, take your felt tool, place it behind the bracket on the side of the car. Go ahead and remove your thumb screw or pin if you're on the front or back of the car. Apply some pressure to the felt tool and you should be able to lift straight up and take that arm out. Now we're ready to pack it up in a blanket. You want to make sure you've got the thumb screw and or the pin in place in this arm so that the next dealership has it. I like to start at one side and roll the blanket over a lot like a burrito. After you've got one fold, just tuck it in and taper outward like this. This way we're making sure that this metal is not going to get scratched up in transit. The largest arms are the simplest to pull out. Just grab a hold and give it some good old-fashioned elbow grease. Pull it right loose. Now we're ready to wrap it up in a blanket and pack it in the car. All right. Now I'm going to loosen up these wing nuts and remove them. Make sure I've got my power disconnected here. And I'm just going to give a good firm pull away from the vehicle after loosening from the bolts there. Just give a good firm pull like that. Now we're ready to wrap this up and put it in the car, but not before we replace these wing nuts. Put them right back here for the next dealer. And now we're ready to take this one and load it in the car. We'll go ahead and release this pin, pull it out. We'll take our familiar felt tool, line it up just behind this mounting bracket, apply a little pressure, should easily be able to lift out the arm. So now we're in the home stretch. We've just got to get these computers dressed up, loaded in the trunk, and have this car ready to move on to the next dealership. First things first, use these Fiesta Movement t-shirts, place them around the computers to keep the glass from getting scuffed in shipping. Now that the computers are dressed and ready to be packed, we'll go ahead and access the trunk. And we'll start off by cutting power to our uninterruptible power supply. Just go ahead and touch the button. That'll preserve the batteries for the next dealership. We're going to load the first computer in back to the back of the seat. Now we'll take a piece of foam, place it in front of the glass screen, and we'll grab another computer. And we'll stagger. We're going to put the back to this other computer, but we're sliding it just to the right so that the two bases are side by side. Now we'll grab another piece of foam, cover that screen. Now we're going to go ahead and load this one the same way, back to the back. And for our final computer, we use one more piece of foam, and we're going to put the back of the computer towards us, like so. Now these two should be separated by foam. If you need two pieces, make sure the glass here can't touch. Use any extra foam you have just to keep the computers from sliding around. Now we're ready to seal it up. So that's it. You've packed up Mission Control. I hope it was a great success for you. I'm Tim with the Fiesta Movement, and I'll see you next time.